Yuma Tower, need to return to the field immediately.
3-1 Juliet, are you declaring an emergency?
3-1 Juliet's declaring emergency.
For glider pilots, every landing is a power-off landing. No big deal, since they do it on every single flight. Is it dangerous? Does it demand superior training or extraordinary skill? Not at all. In fact, gliders are so safe that pilots as young as 14 can solo, 2 years earlier than the legal age to solo a powered aircraft. What makes these power-off landings so safe for glider pilots is a consistent set of procedures, a precise pattern, and mastery of the tools used to correct glide path. Should it be any different for a single engine-powered pilot who loses the engine during cruise? Not at all. They essentially become a glider pilot. And yet, every year, hundreds of pilots are killed or seriously injured when they lose an engine in flight and botch the resulting off-airport landing. The reason is simple: a lack of training and proficiency in emergency procedures. An emergency is not the time to attempt something you've never practiced. Your odds of success are marginal at best. You have to fall back on your training if you want an outcome with a high probability of success. This video will describe the proper procedures for practicing an emergency approach and landing during the cruise phase of your flight. These procedures will only be practiced by students when a flight instructor is on board the aircraft. Here's the scenario. We are on a long cross country from Cochise College to Safford, Arizona. We are cruising at 7,500 feet and are about halfway to Safford. It is a beautiful VFR day, and the flight is going exactly as planned when suddenly the engine begins to run rough and finally quits. We immediately begin to execute our emergency procedures. The first thing we need to do is our ABCs. Airspeed. We want to set best glide speed. For the PA-28, this is 76 knots. Trimming the plane 3/4 of max nose up will help you maintain glide speed effortlessly. Best place to land. Off to our left is a clear field. The field is 3 nautical miles away from our current position, but is it within gliding distance? We can determine our glide range quickly using the glide ring technique. The glide ring is an imaginary circle that extends from a point 3/4 distance outboard of the wings around the aircraft. This glide ring allows the pilot to visualize a conservative 6:1 glide ratio footprint on the ground from which to choose a potential landing area. The glide ring automatically compensates for aircraft altitude. Once we determine this field is within gliding distance, we immediately turn directly toward it. Every foot of altitude counts at this point. Checklist. Run through your emergency checklists. As you are doing the checklist, you will be getting closer to your emergency landing site. You have 2 checklists to run: engine power loss during flight, and, if the engine does not restart, proceed to the power off landing checklist. Tune the radio to the emergency frequency and broadcast a mayday. Ensure you include your tail number and the location of where you intend to land. This information will greatly aid first responders in reaching you quickly after you land. We are now committed to an emergency landing. Now we must determine the location of the high key. The high key is on the downwind directly abeam of where you want to land. This is the same point where you initially reduce power when conducting a normal landing. The surface winds today are out of the west, so we will set up for a final approach from the east side of the field. Using a left downwind for the approach, our high key would be located at the position of the red X. Continue to head directly to the high key at best glide speed. We must now determine the elevation of the intended landing site. To find field elevation, press the range button on the MFD map screen. The elevation will display at the top of the map. Here the elevation is 3,586 feet. We want to cross the high key at the start of our approach at 1,000 feet AGL, so we will add 1,000 to 3,600 and enter 4,600 feet in our altitude alerter. We are now arriving at the high key. Our altitude indicates 6,080 feet. We still need to lose 1,500 feet before we can start our approach from the high key at roughly 4,600 feet. We will do this by spiraling down over the high key at best glide. Your spirals should always be toward the landing area so that you are always within gliding distance of the field in case you must start your approach earlier than anticipated. A steep spiral will typically consume about 500 feet of altitude. Depending on altitude, you may need to complete several spirals before arriving at the high key altitude. Your goal is to arrive as close to the high key target altitude as possible. It does not have to be perfect. It is okay to be within plus or minus 100 feet when you start your approach. Small altitude deviations can be corrected while on the approach. We are now crossing the high key at 1,000 feet AGL, just like we do when practicing normal landings. At this point, add 10 degrees of flaps and start a 180-degree power-off approach to the landing area. As you fly the approach, continually verbalize if you are high, low, or on glide path. If you are high or low on your glide path, make an adjustment using the various techniques your flight instructor will teach you. It is better to make many small corrections early than to delay and have to make large corrections later. In this case, the aircraft is high on glide path, so a forward slip to the right is introduced by the pilot to lose altitude. Once you have determined that the landing area will be made, without a doubt, deploy full flaps and begin slowing to normal approach speeds. During training, your instructor will take you down to 500 feet AGL. At that point, they will determine if you would have safely made your intended emergency landing area. At that time, you should be on glide path, on speed, and configured for landing. You will then be instructed to go around. Immediately add full power, arrest the descent, retract the first notch of flaps, and assume a VY climb. During training, never descend below the minimum altitudes per FAR, 91.119. Remember, the priority in an emergency landing is the human occupants of the aircraft, not the aircraft itself. A desire to not damage the aircraft should be of the lowest concern to you in an actual emergency. Do what you must to preserve life. Aircraft can be replaced, but people cannot. By training to the procedures outlined in this video, you will gain the skills and confidence to safely execute an emergency landing if such a situation presents itself. In the end, an airplane with no engine is just a glider. Thank you for watching, and fly safe.